The Endless War, the untold story of Hamas and Israel. In a land of ancient dust and sacred stones, where prophets once walked and prayers rise with the smoke of war, two peoples have lived, fought, and bled for generations. This is the story of a conflict that refuses to die. A war that began long before our time and still burns today. This is the Endless War, the untold story of Hamas and Israel. Part 1. The Seeds of Fire. To understand this war, we must go back nearly a century. Back to the days of the British Mandate, when the land between the River Jordan and the Mediterranean Sea was known as Palestine. It was a land of villages, farms, and holy cities, home to Muslims, Christians, and Jews alike. But in 1947, the United Nations proposed to divide the land. One state for the Jews, who sought refuge after centuries of persecution, and one for the Arabs, who already called it home. Jewish leaders accepted. Arab leaders rejected. To them, it was a theft of land, of dignity, of identity. And so, when Israel declared independence in 1948, war erupted. Arab armies invaded, and the First Arab-Israeli War began. When the dust settled, Israel survived. Palestine did not. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were driven from their homes. An event they still call Al-Nakba, the catastrophe. Refugee camps rose on the borders, and the dream of peace faded away. Israel was born in triumph. Palestine in tragedy. Part 2. Occupation and Resistance. 2 decades later, war returned. In 1967, Israel fought Egypt, Jordan, and Syria in what became the Six-Day War. In less than a week, Israel captured Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem. To Israel, it was survival. To Palestinians, it was occupation. And from this wound, resistance was born. In 1987, during the First Intifada, a mass Palestinian uprising, a man named Sheikh Ahmed Yassin founded a movement that would shape the next generation of conflict. Its name was Hamas. At first, Hamas built schools, mosques, and charities. But behind those doors, it trained fighters and built weapons. Its mission was simple: end Israeli control and reclaim Palestine through resistance. To Israel, Hamas was a terrorist group. To many Palestinians, it became both a defender and a curse. A symbol of pride, and the reason for endless suffering. The fires of resistance had found new fuel. Part 3. The Blockade and the Broken Land. In 2005, Israel withdrew its soldiers and settlers from Gaza. But instead of freedom, Gaza fell into deeper isolation. A year later, Hamas won the Palestinian elections, a shock to the world. Soon, clashes broke out between Hamas and Fatah. And by 2007, Hamas had taken full control of Gaza. In response, Israel and Egypt sealed Gaza's borders. A blockade began, meant to weaken Hamas, but it crushed civilians instead. Fuel ran out. Electricity flickered for only a few hours a day. Jobs disappeared. Food and medicine became luxuries. Israel said it was for security. Hamas said it was punishment. And the people were trapped between two walls, one of concrete, the other of politics. Years passed, and wars erupted again and again. 2008, 2012, 2014, 2021. Each war killed thousands. Each ceasefire brought only silence before the next storm. And the world watched, then moved on. Part 4. The Day the Sky Fell. Then came the morning of October 7, 2023. A day that tore the world apart. Before sunrise, rockets filled the sky. Thousands of them, bursting across southern Israel. Hamas militants crossed the border through the fences, tunnels, and air. They attacked Israeli towns, villages, and military bases. It was the deadliest single day in Israel's modern history. Israel was shaken. The world was horrified. And the war began. Israel declared a state of war and launched massive airstrikes on Gaza. Buildings crumbled. Neighborhoods vanished. Communication lines fell silent. Israel vowed to destroy Hamas completely. Hamas vowed to resist to the end. But once again, it was civilians who paid the price. Part 5: Fire and Ruins. In the months that followed, Gaza turned to dust. Entire families displaced. Hospitals overwhelmed. Towers collapsed into streets of rubble. Israeli forces invaded by land, sea, and air. Hamas fighters struck back from tunnels and shadows. The war moved block by block, tunnel by tunnel, street by street. By mid-2024, Gaza's skyline was gone. The living conditions collapsed, food scarce, water polluted, power nearly gone. The international community split in anger and grief. Some called Israel's campaign self-defense. Others called it collective punishment. The truth was lost between politics and propaganda. Part 6: Hostages and Shadows. Among the chaos were the hostages. When Hamas attacked in 2023, they took more than 200 people. Men, women, children, even foreign nationals, back into Gaza. Their fates became a national obsession in Israel. Their faces covered walls, screens, and city streets. Israel's mission became twofold: destroy Hamas and bring the hostages home. In late 2024, after months of mediation by Egypt, Qatar, and the US, a short ceasefire was reached. Hostages were exchanged for Palestinian prisoners. Tears of relief filled the screens of the world. For a brief moment, hope returned. But the truce ended. And the bombs began again. Part 7: The Year of Famine. By 2025, Gaza was facing total collapse. The blockade tightened. Aid struggled to enter. Famine spread through the refugee camps. The United Nations described it as a catastrophe beyond measure. Entire families survived on scraps of bread. Children waited for food trucks that never arrived. In these scenes of despair, the guns still thundered. The war had lasted nearly 2 years. And yet neither side was willing to yield. The people of Gaza were exhausted. The people of Israel lived in constant fear. And the world cried out for peace. Part 8: The Ceasefire. Then, in October 2025, came a fragile breakthrough. Under immense international pressure, both sides agreed to a ceasefire. A deal brokered by Egypt, Qatar, and the United States. It was a trade. Hostages for prisoners. Silence for aid. On October 10, 2025, the guns went silent. On October 13, the last of the living hostages were released. For the first time in nearly 2 years, the skies over Gaza were free of smoke. But beneath the silence lay a deep exhaustion. And a grief too heavy to measure. Part 9: The Aftermath. Today, Gaza lies shattered. Homes reduced to rubble. Schools gone. Water and power scarce. And millions displaced, struggling to survive. Israel too bears scars. Of loss, of fear, and of a nation still searching for security. The war may have paused, but peace remains a distant dream. For both peoples, the wounds are far from healed. And for the world, the question remains: how many more will die before the lesson is learned? Part 10: Reflection: The Endless War. The war between Hamas and Israel is not only about land. It is about history, faith, and trauma passed down through generations. Every child in Gaza grows up under the shadow of drones. Every child in Israel learns to run when the sirens sound. Fear becomes language. Hatred becomes heritage. And so, the war feeds itself. The world argues. Some see terrorists, others see freedom fighters. But behind every label, there are human lives. No one truly wins this war. No one ever has. Only the cemeteries grow. And as history writes another chapter, one question echoes through the ruins. Can there ever be peace in the land called holy, when the ground itself remembers every drop of blood spilled upon it? This has been The Untold World, a story of conflict, survival, and the search for humanity in endless war. If you believe these stories must be told, if you believe history should never be forgotten, Then subscribe and join us as we continue to uncover the untold world.